Hey, Tom here from the Run Testers with another trail running shoe review. In this video, myself and Nick are going to be reviewing the Saucony Peregrine 12. Let's take a look. The Saucony Peregrine 12 costs £130 or $130. They weigh in at 279 grams or 9.8 ounces for men in a size 8, and the drop is 4mm. The Peregrine line is back with the 12th version of its popular trail shoe. It's a shoe that doesn't particularly excel in any area, instead being a versatile option that can tackle a range of terrains, speeds and types of run. The shoe features a healthy layer of PWRRUN cushioning in the midsole to add comfort on harder trails, and the new PWRRUN Plus sockliner for additional softness. There's also a new rock plate to protect the feet whilst also ensuring a smooth ride, and a redesigned PWRTRAC outsole to add grip on tricky surfaces. There's also an updated upper design that's more minimal while still providing protective elements.
So the Peregrine fit, true to size for me. I have to pull the laces quite tight around my midfoot to get a good lockdown. I have quite a narrow foot, but that wasn't a problem. You know, it's a comfortable, secure fit, and there's a nice amount of room in the toe box. Even when you're pounding down hills, your foot isn't moving and your toes aren't smashing into that toe box. So yeah, it's a nice, good fit in my normal size.
So the fit for me in the Peregrine 12 was really good. It's true to size for me. I would say it's quite a generous shoe for a trail shoe. Normally with a trail shoe, I expect it to be fairly tight, fairly narrow in a lot of cases. But I think the Peregrine 12 feels a little bit more like a road shoe when it comes to fit. So for me, I've got pretty average size feet. They're not narrow, they're not overly wide. It felt completely fine in a size 8, true to size, and I found it very comfortable.
So I've always been quite a big fan of the Saucony Peregrine line, just because it's an all-rounder shoe that can handle lots of terrains, but it veers a little bit more towards soft ground, which is what I tend to do a lot of running on when I'm on the trails. And I feel like a lot of kind of all-rounder, all-terrain shoes are just good for kind of rocky ground and that kind of thing. But the Peregrine can generally handle my local forest all year round, and the forest is usually a bit of a quagmire in patches for kind of 6 months of the year, really. So it's really nice to have a shoe that you can use all year round in the forest without having to get, a dedicated mud shoe and then a harder ground shoe for the summer. So the outsole changes on the Peregrine 12, I think, have made it slightly less good in the mud. I will say that. They're a little bit more spaced out, the lugs. It sheds muds very well, and it still grips pretty well, but it's not quite as kind of reliable as previous versions of the shoe. I think Saucony maybe are trying to create more of a differentiation between the sloppy terrain version of the shoe, the Peregrine 12 ST, and the normal one. But, so I took it today in particular out for a very muddy 10-mile route around my local forest, which is like a race route that we have for my local club. And literally the first time I turned off the road to start the muddy route, I hit a muddy patch at an angle and slipped over straight away. And I thought, oh no, maybe these aren't good anymore. But actually ran the rest of the route perfectly fine. I think you have to be a little bit more careful in the 12 on muddy patches than you did in the 11, especially when running at speed. But yeah, it still has got the grip, to go into very deep mud and, survive that and then still be quite comfortable on harder sections. I would definitely say the drop in weight is noticeable compared to the Peregrine 11, and it's really welcome. Like, I haven't noticed any difference in the upper in terms of my actual real-world use experience. Like I say, the outsole is a little bit maybe not quite as aggressive, but it's still a good aggressive outsole, and good for a variety of terrains. And just losing that weight is great. It puts the shoe more in a bracket where I'd be comfortable using it for kind of longer races in particular. And it's got a nice kind of firm, responsive ride from that PWRRUN foam that makes it, but it is still pretty comfortable to use for kind of long runs. I've been over 20k in it twice, and would feel very comfortable going a lot further than that in the shoe. The only thing I would say is that I don't really see it as a road to trail shoe, and I have done kind of long stints on the road in it as part of kind of general runs on trails. I found it a little bit firm and unforgiving. I think this is a shoe that will work on any kind of trail, like hard ground, on actual trails that are a bit more uneven. It works pretty well, but if pounding it on flat tarmac, I think it becomes a little bit firm and harsh to ride after a while. So it is more of a shoe that I would stick to the trails in. But short stints on the road are completely fine, but I wouldn't go and do a half marathon on the road or something like that. So yeah, on any kind of trail though, it does a great job. It's comfortable, it's cushioned, it grips well, and yeah, it's fantastic that it's a little bit lighter. So all round, I had a very pleasant running experience in the Peregrine 12.
I really enjoyed running in the Peregrine 11 just because it was a really versatile trail shoe. And the type of trail running that I do is pretty varied. I don't normally head out to do a muddy run. I don't head out to do a speed run. I just head out and see how it goes. So what I want is a trail shoe that can just sort of cover me for anything that I'm doing. I've done about 70k in the Peregrine 12 so far, and that has varied between shorter 10k trails over parks all the way up to a couple of 20 kilometre or 25 kilometre runs across the South Downs in near Brighton. So those runs varied quite a lot. They moved between large road sections as well as quite high incline hills. It wasn't that muddy on the days that I was doing it. It was still a little bit soft, but it wasn't wet. So I've not given these a real going over with muddy ground yet. But what I found over those runs is that they're much like the Peregrine 11, they're still a fantastic all-rounder trail shoe. The road sections that I did, some of the road sections were up to about 7k. So a lot of those runs that I was doing over the downs did have a lot of road elements in them. And it delivered pretty well on those sections. I wouldn't say it's well designed for road. When I got to about 5k, I was kind of thinking, I wish I was wearing a road shoe now or something a little bit softer. But it was fine. It wasn't a big problem. I think the PWRRUN midsole foam in here is actually slightly softer than what was in the Peregrine 11, and it is noticeable. It doesn't feel like a road shoe over long distances, but it does feel a little bit softer. It feels fine doing road. You could probably do up to 10k in this shoe on road, and you wouldn't have any major issues. It wouldn't be massively comfortable, but again, you wouldn't really notice it. So for that 25k that I was doing over the downs, the 7 or 8k or so that I did on road was fine. It did a great job on that, and it wasn't an issue at all. When I got off of those roads and got onto the trails, I was doing quite a bit over sort of fields and muddy trails in forests as well. And that's when this shoe really comes into its own. It just feels very light on when you start hitting that softer ground. It just feels very comfortable. You are in control. It has a quite nice grip when you're just on soft trails. And overall, it's just a very enjoyable shoe to run on over those sorts of trails. As I said, I've not tried this on very muddy ground yet. I don't think it would do particularly well. The 11 that I tested out was good to a point, but as soon as you start getting into some really wet mud, the lugs just weren't big enough for it. So I know Nick's tested on wet mud, so I'll let him explain how it works with those. But for me, over those lighter trails with a little bit of soft mud, not wet, it just works really well. I wouldn't say it's a road to trail shoe. It's definitely, I don't want to run on roads in this shoe, but it can do the job if you want to. When I was doing those runs across the downs, I didn't really know how much road I was going to be running on. So they did the job completely fine, and very much enjoyed the whole run. I had no issues at all over that whole distance. So the verdict for me for the Saucony Peregrine 12, I think it's more of the same as what you got from the Saucony Peregrine 11. It's a great all-rounder shoe. It's very good for covering lots of different types of trails. I don't think it's a shoe that's designed for extremes, so it's not a really technical trail shoe. It's not one that's especially designed for lots of wet mud because of the slightly shallow lugs that it has. And again, it's not particularly good at long distance on hard ground, especially road. But it can probably do a bit of all of those things. So if you're the kind of person that just wants one trail shoe and you don't particularly have a specific type of trail that you run on, you just want a shoe that will cover you for lots of different things, I think the Peregrine 12 is a great option. And I always said that about the Peregrine 11, that if you're just looking for one trail shoe, it's a good thing to go for, because you don't want to have a trail shoe that's designed for hard ground and then take it onto wet mud, and then alternatively you don't want to have the opposite as well. So this shoe just works really well in that it can pretty much tick all the boxes. It's not going to excel in any area. You're going to find a better shoe that can deal with pretty much every terrain, but you're not going to find many that can deal with all of those terrains. And I think that's where the Peregrine 12 fits in. The other thing as well is it's just really comfortable. It just feels like a road shoe. A lot of trail shoes can feel a little bit restrictive. They can feel a little bit hard in the midsole. It's not very comfortable unless you're running on soft mud. Whereas this one, it's that PWRRRUN midsole foam is actually quite soft. It feels like a road midsole. Not a really soft road midsole, but you can get a nice bit of cushioning in there. So yeah, I think it's a fantastic shoe and a great all-rounder, and well worth a look if you just want one trail shoe to tick off all your different types of running.
Overall, the Peregrine 12 is one of my kind of favourite all-rounder trail shoes. It's right up there with something like the Hoka Torrent 2. I think the Salomon Sense Ride is actually a very nice all-rounder trail shoe as well. If you're looking for just one trail shoe that can really handle pretty much everything when it comes to off-road running, it does a fantastic job of it. It does, like I say, it does grip well on soft ground, better than most all-rounder trail shoes in my experience, and it is still comfortable and kind of quite fast and responsive on those harder trails, especially with the drop in weight. Like I said, I don't personally rate it as a fantastic road to trail shoe. I think you're looking at more at shoes like the Nike Pegasus Trail 3, which is really not great on slick rocks or kind of muddy ground, but is very comfortable on the road and does transition a little bit more comfortably, whereas the Peregrine's a little bit firmer on the road. And I will say, even though it is a lighter shoe than its predecessor, when it comes to kind of all-out racing, personally I still prefer a very stripped back trail shoe, getting it kind of around or below 200 grams, something from like Innovate, their X-Talon G210, or the Adidas Speed Terex Pro SG I've used a lot this year. And actually, when I'm racing on that kind of 10-mile route that I took the Peregrine around today, I'll be using the Adidas just because it is a little bit lighter and it's got slightly more aggressive grip. It works really well for that kind of thing. But for a general trail shoe to use for kind of all your training runs and racing and just a variety of terrains, it's pretty hard to beat it, I will say that. I think it's great for short, long, any kind of distance on the trails, pretty much any kind of terrain. Like I say, a few caveats to that, but all in all, this is a great update to what was already a very good shoe.
So that's it from me and Nick on the Saucony Peregrine 12. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and click that little bell icon. It really does make a difference. And check the channel out for all the other videos we've got, from the latest road and trail shoes to running watches and headphones out at the moment. Thanks a lot for watching. See you soon.